The following is an encore presentation of stories from the Dooralong Transformation Centre. We're talking to Joe from the Dooralong Transformation Centre, and before that you lived in Penrith, Joe.
I did.
And before that, Rockhampton.
Yes, that's correct.
You travelled around a bit, yeah. You're not going to Rockhampton?
No, way too hot up there.
Way too hot.
Yeah, we used to go up and visit family, as a child, but there's not a lot of family left up there anymore. They're spread out, so we don't go up that often.
Right, so you're firmly back in New South Wales?
Yep,
okay.
Pretty much.
And for the last how many months have you been living at Dooralong?
It's 5 months today, actually.
5 months today? Oh,
yeah.
Happy, I don't know what the word is, happy...
5 months?
Happy 5 month day, yeah, happy 5 months Dooralong day. So 5 months today?
That's correct, yeah.
And it's made a big difference in your life, has it?
Huge difference. I don't think I've ever felt contentment like I do now. Yeah,
wow, that's impressive,
it's amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah. So let's wind the clocks back.
Yeah.
Before that 5 months, what's your addiction? That's a really sort of confronting question, isn't it? What's your addiction?
My addiction is alcohol.
Yeah.
I started drinking as a teen.
Yeah.
More for confidence than anything. Yeah. I was very much an introvert, had struggles with socialising and feeling like I could fit in. So I would drink to fit in.
Yeah. So before you went out to the party, you'd have a drink so that you felt more at ease.
More comfortable, more confident. Yeah, and then once I was at the party, I kind of overdid a little bit, but as most teens do.
Yeah, it's that age of experiment.
That's
isn't it?
Yeah.
So you went through that stage. Did you then got a job? Did you?
I was working. Once I left school, I was working as a receptionist.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I thought reception was the easiest thing to get into at that point in time. Yeah. So just, I worked at a couple of different places as a receptionist and got into accounts as well, did some accounts payable and receivable and payroll and things like that. Yeah. So.
And was drink a problem for you at this stage, or was it manageable and under control?
I didn't feel that it was a problem. I believed that I was working and, I was functioning quite well. I think my parents thought it might have been a problem. Often they'd say, maybe you should just give it a rest this weekend. But, I wasn't drinking during the week, but I was partying pretty hard and, sort of not getting home till 5, 6 in the morning. And, there was concerns with my parents back then when I think about it,
So there were some early warning signs that this might be more than just social drinking.
Yeah, looking back at it now, there definitely was,
Yeah. So what age are you now? You're in your 20s?
I'm 43.
Sorry, at that time that we're talking about then?
At that time, I probably would have been 19.
19?
Yeah.
So you're drinking. Mum and Dad have noticed it's becoming a bit of a problem at weekends, but you're holding down a job. Life isn't too bad for you.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, I'm just being a typical teen and, going out and partying. I was, between 18, 19, 20. And I didn't see it as an issue.
Had it all under control?
I had it all under control.
Living the life.
Yeah.
When did it step up a gear? When did it become a problem? When did you recognise it to be a problem?
It would have been my early 20s. I left my son's father when my son was 6 months old, and it was quite an abusive relationship. And sort of, I got into a really dark place with depression. And I knew it was a problem back then, but I couldn't admit it. I wasn't working, so I'd spend my days drinking, and it was just a really dark place that I was in. And although my family could see it, and they kept saying to me that I needed help, I needed to straighten out, I couldn't admit it myself. And it wasn't until my late 20s that I realised that something had to change.
So this went on quite a long time.
Oh yeah, this went on for about 6 years, 7 years. Yeah.
So from being that 19 or 20-year-old who drank but thought it was under control, we've now gone into a different league, haven't we? Yeah,
we were into a league where I was drinking most of the day.
Yeah.
My son had come home from school and I would already be intoxicated. But I didn't drink at night because I had my son there, so I would sober up while he was home. But during the day I had nothing to do. I wasn't working. My son was at school. So I gave myself permission to drink because it was all that filled my days.
And previously, when you were a teen, you were drinking because it sort of helped with the social anxiety.
Yeah.
Now it sounds as if you're drinking to blot stuff out.
Yeah, definitely. And that was the change, was that it wasn't anymore just a social thing. It was, it was to try and block out everything. You know, like
because around you life wasn't so good.
Yeah, it wasn't great.
Abusive relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, and it was just easier to be numb than it was to feel anything. Yeah.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's almost like self-medication, but in a very harmful way.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
So how much would you be drinking at this stage? Typical day?
Typical day, I'd probably have 6 to 10 strongbows. At that point, I was drinking the strongbows. It varied, really, you know, sort of depending on how much time I had to drink, you know, depending on what time I dropped my son off, what time I picked him up.
Yeah.
Fortunately.
What about your career at this stage? Is that?
No, there was no career at that point. I had lost my job during my relationship with my son's father. I was becoming unreliable at work, and I was drinking more and more during that relationship as well. But I was becoming unreliable at work as well because, you know, sort of I didn't want to go to work in the morning with bruises and so forth. So it became very difficult to hold down work.
Yeah.
And yeah, so at that point I had no career through my 20s. I was lost.
Sounds a very hopeless time.
Yeah, I was very lost. Very lost.
Yeah. We're talking to Jo this morning from Dooralong Transformation Centre. She was explaining just before that break how she found herself in her early 20s living in an abusive situation, domestic violence, her and her son. And that situation would just be horrendous, wouldn't it? And so being sort of susceptible to alcohol, I think Jo said she stepped it up a gear and it's now out of control, the alcohol. You're trying to blot out, you know, the awful abuse that's taking place in your
that's
life.
right. That's right, yeah.
And that went on for how many years?
That lasted for about 6 or 7 years.
It's a long time to be living in that situation.
It was a really long time. It was a very dark time.
Of course, yeah.
I was kind of in and out of it. There were moments where it was a lot heavier than other times. But yeah, it was pretty dark, and I just realised I couldn't keep going like that.
Yeah. Well, look, we don't want to leave you any longer than necessary in that dark place. So, what prompted you to sort of reach out for help?
Well, I mean, it wasn't until recently, sort of a couple of months ago, that I reached out for help professionally. Back in my 20s, I just sort of went, you know, I need to do something, I need to change my life. So I did. I applied for positions with work and got a job, straightened myself out by myself for a while, for a long time, and you know, just focused on my career and you know, bringing up my son and raising him to the best of my ability. And then 2 years ago, I unfortunately lost a job with unfair dismissal, and all the confidence that I had built up and you know, my career and everything that I had achieved felt like it had all just crashed down underneath me. So the drinking began again quite heavily, and although I had another job after that, I couldn't quite focus on that job. I felt like I couldn't give it my all. I didn't trust again, and it was like I was back in my 20s again. And then it got to a point about 8 months ago, where my entire life was just spiralling out of control. I was just really dark again. The depression had sunk in again, and I had gone back to old behaviours with using alcohol. And yeah, it was. I started seeing a drug and alcohol counsellor, which was through the Salvation Army at Pathways, and she was absolutely amazing. But I felt that I wasn't happening. Like I didn't have the ability and the strength this time to do it on my own, and I knew that, and I had to face it before things got too bad, like before it became worse. Like,
I've tried it on my own, it's hard, and it hasn't really worked for me.
Exactly, it might have worked for a little while, but it didn't sustain
No long term.
No long term, it wasn't a life-changing thing.
So you asked your counsellor, could she find some sort of outside help for you?
Yeah, well, I got to a point where I became quite suicidal.
Yeah.
And I phoned my counsellor on a Monday night, and I said, look, I'm really not coping. Something's got to give, or I'm not going to last. And she asked me to come in the next day. So I went and saw her, and I'd never heard of Dooralong before. I hadn't really even thought of rehab. I just didn't know what to do. I was completely lost, and she said, I've got you a bed for Thursday at Dooralong.
Wow. that quick.
That fast. It was such a big turnaround, really quick. I didn't know what to think at first, and I was just like, okay, this is it.
Because very often there's a waiting list at Dooralong,
there is,
2 or 3 months sometimes.
Exactly. And I was very lucky and very blessed that, I think somebody must have been looking out for me at the time, because they knew that I couldn't go on any further on my own.
Another 2 or 3 months, it could have proved fatal.
Exactly. So, I believe that there was definitely someone watching out for me over that period of time, and,
So you find yourself at Dooralong on the
Found
Thursday?
myself at Dooralong on the Thursday, yes.
5 months ago today?
Yes,
exactly.
5 months ago today.
Yeah. And what was the first day like?
It was pretty horrendous.
Yeah.
Saying goodbye to my family was just really, really hard, because my family have always supported me, and they've been my solid ground. And my brother and my son brought me up to Dooralong from Penrith, and saying goodbye to them was just, it was heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
Not something I want to repeat again.
No.
But at the end of the day, it's just been the best thing that I've done. And, my first day there was, it was a little bit tough, because I had actually gone in breathing 0.04 on the breathalyzer, because I didn't realise that I had to detox.
Oh, right. Yeah, there's somewhere in Wyong where they have to detox first,
yeah. Normally there's the detox process, but because it all happened so quickly for me, there hadn't been that detox process. So I got into Dooralong, a nervous wreck, and then got turned around to Wyong Hospital to detox. But fortunately, the next day they had said that I appeared to be fine. My health was all in good shape, fortunately.
Yeah.
And so then I was discharged from the hospital and back to Dooralong on the Friday.
Where you've been for the last 5 months?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I think, that start to the program really gave me the strength. I thought, if I can do this on my own, I can do anything. So.
And people that we speak to from Dooralong very often say it's a journey of self-discovery. It's like meeting themselves for the first time.
Definitely.
What is it that you know about yourself now that perhaps you didn't know then? What's been the biggest aha moment for you?
Biggest aha moment?
Because we know they have all these sort of programs, some of them are one-to-one, then you have your group work, and then there are various therapies.
Yeah.
Has there been any moment where you thought, oh wow, I'm going to really have to take notice of that?
Yeah, I think it's the blaming of myself, carrying around that shame. I used to think it was guilt, but I've since found out that it's actually shame that I'm carrying, and that I'm not to blame for that shame. That was my addiction. Whereas before I used to think it was me. So that's been a really big thing for me, is learning that I'm not my addiction.
Wow, that's quite powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Addiction's part of your life, but it's
exactly. And the person that I was in addiction isn't who I am today.
No.
Yeah. So I think that's been the biggest thing for me, is I am not my addiction.
Yeah. And there's no blame attached to it.
No.
You were clinically addicted.
No, I was unwell.
You were unwell.
I had a sickness.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing something about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a sort of healthy outlook, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And what do you reckon to all the programs and the staff and the whole thing at Dooralong? Probably most of our listeners have never been there, and probably hard for them to imagine, but it's really a good place, isn't it?
It's absolutely amazing. It's so tranquil. The property is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a resort style property. I just feel so blessed to be there, and the staff, I couldn't talk more highly of them. They are just fantastic. They absolutely 100% understand what we're going through. They are so supportive, so caring. They're always on hand. The minute something's wrong, you know, if you're having a really down moment, you only have to put up your hand and they're there for you. You know, having that 24-hour support is just incredible. So if there's anybody listening who is perhaps in the position you were 5, 6, 12 months ago, well, what advice would you give them? Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to admit it. Life is so much better on the other side. Don't be afraid to admit it. In other words, don't be afraid to admit your addiction and that you have a problem. And that you need help. Yeah, or even if you can't admit your addiction, just ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And it's not a sign of weakness. On the contrary, it's a sign of strength. Exactly. Well, I always thought it was a sign of weakness. I always felt like I had to be the strong person in everything. But yeah, it's not a sign of weakness. Absolutely not. It actually takes more strength to say I need help than it does to sit back and not ask. We're talking to Jo, and we're looking to the future now. You've been at Dooralong, we know exactly, to the day, 5 months. So how much longer do you think you'll be there? I know the program doesn't have a set time. It's when you're ready to leave. But in your own mind, when do you think it might be time? I'm looking at probably still another 4 months, 4 to 5 months. I want to complete the program. I want to get everything that I possibly can out of it. There's no point in rushing it and then having a relapse and going back. My idea when I came in, they said it was a 10-month program. I freaked out at that. I thought, oh my gosh, you know, 10 months, that's a really long time. But I also went in with the theory that I wasn't going to put a time limit on it. My life is not worth a time limit. And when you look at your lifespan, even up to now, I mean, 10 months. Exactly. You know, and if it will give you your life back again. Exactly. So you've been there 5 months. There's another good few months ahead of you. And then what's going to happen to Jo? Well, I've been really fortunate that my position at work is still open for me. Sort of in the time that I was building my career, I started working in mental health, and my workplace, when I first went into Dooralong, I suggested that I resign, and my manager said, no, we'll hold your position. We think you're really courageous for what you're doing. It was the first they knew of my issues. I was really fortunate that they held that position open. So I will go back to their once I'm finished program. And that's good. It's like they recognise it to be an illness rather than and they're very supportive. Exactly, so I'm very lucky there. So you've got a career. How are things with your son and the rest of your family now? Absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be more proud to have such a supportive family. My son and I have a really close relationship. He's my best friend. How old is he now? He's 23 now, and he supports me 100%, and he's very proud of what I'm doing. And the rest of my family, I've got 2 siblings who, you know, I've got my brother paying all of my bills while I'm in here, you know, just they took care of everything, you know, and been really lucky in that situation. They just want you to get you know, and I kind of often say to them, you know, how am I ever going to repay you for what you've done? And they said, you're already doing it, you know. So they've noticed the difference. Just to see me happy and content and, you know, having life back in my eyes again. So the Jo, I think we said this to other people that we've interviewed, the Jo that leaves Dooralong isn't the same Jo that walked in. Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. I can already feel that I'm a very different person to the one that walked into that place. It's definitely been a life-changing experience, and all for the good. And what about the God side of things? We always ask this question because it's run by the Salvation Army, isn't it? And they have a faith and a belief. You're open to that? I'm very open to it. I've never really had a Christian background. So for me, the most I'd ever been in a church was for a wedding or a funeral. Births, deaths, marriages. So it was very daunting when I first walked in. I wasn't sure what to make of it all. But I kept a very open mind and was willing to, you know, accept any new things that came my way. still, not sure about God, but they're okay with that. It's a God of your own understanding, and for me at the moment it's the universe. I just open up to the universe and let that guide me. But there's definitely been times where I've been to chapel and really gotten messages from it that I felt like were being spoken to me. So while I can still sort of sometimes be a bit daunted by it, I also get a lot from it.
Sounds like it's a bit of a journey still.
Yeah, it's a real journey process, and
But you're open to it.
Very open, very open.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's excellent. So you've got another 5 months. What are they having you? How are you earning your keep down at Dooralong? What do they get you to do?
Well, I'm currently working in the kitchen, so I work from 6 till 10 in the mornings, doing the breakfast shift. I also drive the buses, they have bus routes to do drop-off and pick-offs for appointments and so forth. So I'll, do that during the day as well. And just help out in the community where you can.
Yeah, just a little bit puzzled there, but you said you work in a kitchen till 10 o'clock. Well, who then prepares the roast baked dinner for tonight? I mean, it's chapel night. It's a baked dinner.
Oh, see, that's
Why
the boys' shift.
Why aren't you back there slaving away?
That's the boys' shift. We only have to do 4 hours a day of work.
Oh, you have 2 shifts in the kitchen.
Yeah,
then.
so we've got a morning shift, a lunchtime shift, and a night shift for the kitchen.
Yeah.
So the girls do breakfast and lunch, and that's split up into 2 groups. And then the boys do
the
dinner.
real cooking's left to the boys.
Well, they used to have breakfast, but, they just realised that us girls ruled and, we were so much better at breakfast.
So you'll be able to sit down and enjoy the meal that somebody else has cooked tonight.
Yes, definitely.
Oh,
that's the best part is we just get to sit down and enjoy dinner. We don't have to cook. We don't have to clean up. It's just done for us.
And then sit back, enjoy chapel.
Exactly.
Yeah. Look, Joe, it's been an absolute delight and a pleasure to talk to you this morning. We just sort of pray God's blessing or continued blessing upon your life, and things continue to develop and grow strong with your family. Although you sound as if you're a really tight unit.
Yeah, we are.
You and your boy and the rest
there.
of your family.
Yeah.
Look, it would be lovely you come back and see us maybe in another 5 months, just before you leave Dooralong, and we'll see how things are going for you.
I'd love that.
That would be super.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe. Give our love to everybody back at Dooralong.
Thank you.
You've been listening to an encore presentation of the Dooralong stories, which can be heard live every Wednesday at 10 a.m. and repeated 8 p.m. Sunday and 1 a.m. Wednesday, right here on 94.9 rema.cc.